Thank you for visiting the YouTube channel for bestbiblecommentaries.com. In this video, I'd like to show you one of the best reviewed commentaries on the book of Romans. Before I do, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to this channel so you can see videos on Bible commentaries, study Bibles, and other resources that help people understand God's Word. New Testament scholar Douglas Moo is the author of the Romans volume in the NIV Application Commentary series, sometimes called the NIVAC series for short. This particular volume was published in the year 2000. It is 529 pages in length. Douglas Moo taught for over 20 years at Trinity Evangelical Divinity School in Illinois, and since the year 2000, he has taught at Wheaton College Graduate School. He's written a lot of other books, including commentaries on Romans. He wrote the Romans volume in the NICNT series, and he also wrote a book called Encountering the Book of Romans in the Encountering Biblical Studies series. One of the things I'm going to do in the second half of this video is compare this volume to these two volumes. So if you're looking for a commentary on Romans and considering one written by Douglas Moo, I'd like to tell you the difference between these books so you get the right resources in your hand. One of the purposes for me doing this channel is I would just like to help pastors and others get the right resources they need and not spend $30 or $40 on a particular book only to realize that they needed something different. So I'm going to do that in the second half of this video. First, I'm going to talk about this particular volume. The NIV Application Commentary series is arguably the most, or at least one of the most popular commentary series today. And Romans is one of the most popular volumes today. The exegetical aspect of the commentary I would describe as introductory, and then the main focus of the commentary is making the text relevant to today, so hence the word application. But the subtitle for every commentary in the series is From Biblical Text to Contemporary Life. I'd like to show you an example of this, just an example of the layout, and then give you a couple of examples of Moo's theology found in the volume. So the example that I'll show is from Romans 8, 1 through 13. What's listed first is the biblical text, so all 13 verses are printed on the page, and they are in bold font. And then the passage is described under three different headings. And every passage in this commentary is described under the same three headings. So the first is original meaning, and this describes the meaning of Paul's words to his original audience. So that's the first part, original meaning. And just for the sake of examples, so you get an idea of how in-depth the treatment is. So in these four verses, verses 5 through 8, there's 1, 2, 3. Three paragraphs discuss those four verses. So not a tremendous amount of depth, but that might not be what you're looking for. It's more, as I said, it's more of an introduction on the exegetical side. Verses 9 through 11, 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs cover verses 9 through 11. So that's the first section, the original meaning section. The second section is bridging the context, and that's when the bridge is between the first century, when Paul wrote it, and the 21st century, when it's being lived out today. And that's usually the shortest of the three sections in these, as passages are divided up. This one looks to be about 3 pages or so. And then the third one is contemporary significance, and this is really where there is a focus on applying the text. So if you're looking for a resource to use in a ministry context, this section is going to be helpful to you. It's usually a little longer. This one looks to be about 5 pages or so, and it's definitely going to help a preacher or teacher or small group leader or Bible study leader, Sunday school teacher, get started thinking through the application, and you might even directly draw some applications from this particular section. So every passage in Romans is discussed under these three headings in this commentary. And more than that, every single volume in the NIVAC series is divides passages in those three sections. And I think that's one of the reasons why this commentary series is been so popular, is because people know exactly what they're getting when they buy one of the volumes. In regards to theology, Moo is Reformed. He is not afraid to offer a a different interpretation in certain sections on different issues than the traditional Reformed understanding. However, generally speaking, his approach to Romans is Reformed in theological orientation. I'd like to give you an example of that, and this is one of the things that reviewers have pointed out as I've looked at the reviews. And what I mean by the reviews is the reviews in the academic journals, theological journals, biblical studies journals that are usually written by Bible college and seminary professors and other scholars and commentators. That's what I like to look at to see if I can tell some commonalities with a particular resource. So this is one of those things that some of the reviewers pointed out, and it has to do with Moo on double predestination. So he's discussing Romans 9, 22, and 23, and he says, in each of these, Paul seems to suggest that God chooses people to be damned just as he chooses people to be saved. Hence, theologians, particularly of a Calvinist persuasion, speak of, quote, double predestination. Then he says, is the idea really taught in this passage? I cautiously conclude that it is, although in a different form from what many Calvinists hold. So he's accepting the terminology, or at least he's using the terminology, but he's giving it a slight nuance. He continues, as I have argued, the texts cited above all refer to or are applied to God's work in the lives of individuals. God chooses certain individuals and rejects others on the basis of his own will, not on the basis of physical descent, anything they do or will do, or what they will. It is, quote, the God who calls that determines the issue. But if God has unconditionally chosen some to be saved, the parallelism suggests that he also unconditionally destines others to wrath. So that's an example of his theology, and one of the places in this 500-page commentary that the reviewers have noted. And the opinions on Moo's theology in this passage with regard to the journals really depends if the reviewer is Reformed or not. And even some Reformed reviewers might take issue with some of this description. So that's an example. So let me do the comparison now with these other books, with these other commentaries on Romans. So this Romans volume in the NICNT series is one of the best reviewed commentaries on Romans. It's at the top of a lot of people's lists. It's significantly bigger. I think it's like 1,200 pages or so, maybe even a little bit more than that, over 1,200 pages, and it's a different level of commentary. I'd still put it in the mid-level category, but as you can tell, a set of 4 verses is not going to be discussed in 4 paragraphs in this commentary like it is in this commentary. So there's a lot more theological discussion in this particular volume than this one. There's less application focus in this particular volume than there is in this one. I know of people who have used both of these volumes simultaneously. They want the depth of the exegesis from this volume, and they want the application suggestions from this volume. So I do think these go together. Obviously, there's going to be some overlap, but I do think that these can be used as companion volumes, because in this one, you're definitely not going to get the bridging context and the contemporary significance. You're not going to get all of that. You're going to get more in-depth theology, including more Reformed thinking, more in-depth Reformed explanations in this particular commentary. I'd still call this mid-level. Target audience is still pastors for this one and for this one. This one has a wider readership. A Bible study leader or a small group leader, this might not be the volume for them. That might opt for this one or the other one that I would like to show you. This is called Encountering the Book of Romans by Douglas Moo. This might be the best choice for Sunday school leaders, small group teacher leaders, people who just are interested in learning more about the book of Romans. The target audience is really for undergraduates, so students at a Bible college. This is probably not quite seminary level, I would say. Either of these would be seminary level. I don't think this would be assigned for seminary level reading. I could be wrong on that, but let me just show you an example, because one's a lot more for visual learners. So here's an example, Romans 1 through 17. An outline of the passage, objectives from reading this chapter. So it really has a feel for students. Looks like I've marked this one up. Theme, what is Romans about? There's just a brief description on passages to get an overview. Making contact with readers, that's Paul's relationship to the Romans. There's different keywords highlighted in the right-hand side, in the columns. This one's on righteousness. I think I did read this through at one point. It looks like I did. So here's the structure for the entire book of Romans. Here, let's look at another example. There's usually more pictures and illustrations in this particular book. There's these different charts and descriptions, these short extra essays, if you might call them that, and there's study questions. That's why I say Sunday school class, a small group, might really be helped by the study questions. I'm not sure if this would be a great resource for pastors. I could be wrong about that. It might be a better companion piece than anything, than to be used as a primary resource. But people have different purposes, and congregations are all different. So, but I would put these in the order of readability or difficulty. I would say this is the easiest, second easiest, and this is the most advanced. Overall, I'd call this intermediate, but in relation to these 3 volumes, this one's the most advanced. As far as cost goes, this one's usually around the $40 range. This one's usually around the $30 range. This one's usually about the $25 range. That's new, and that can change very easily, but generally that's the way it goes. As far as overall aggregate reviews, is this one for pastors and professors. And this one, since there's a lot of similarity there, this one gets high reviews as well, but this one is the highest rated. This usually isn't rated with commentaries. It's not even called a commentary. It's not called Encountering the Book of Romans, but it really is an introduction through the book of Romans, all 16 chapters. So I hope this video has been helpful to you in understanding more about these volumes. Thank you very much for watching it. I'll put some more information down below. And thank you for visiting bestbiblecommentaries.com.